Okay, so the other day I made a video about a report from the New York Post about an alleged beef stewing between Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith. It was alleged that the two had creative differences on an upcoming project, which led to Pat calling Stephen A. mofo. Anyways, here's Stephen A. addressing this new report.
So I wanted to address a story that was printed just a couple of days ago in the New York Post where folks were alluding to some dispute that I allegedly had with my colleague at ESPN, Mr. Pat McAfee. It's a few things that are incredibly important to say. Number one, there is no dispute whatsoever. Pat McAfee is my teammate. Pat McAfee and I work together at ESPN. There is no banishment from First Take or any other show. He is more than welcome to come on First Take in the future, and I'm going to be more than welcome to come on his show. I don't know how many times I have to say this, but I'm going to try this one more time, not just relying on a statement or a quote that I issued through ESPN, but I'm going to look into the cameras and say this to you nationally and globally. I root for my teammates. I root for my colleagues. I don't root against anybody. The people out there who do that are idiots. A rising tide raises all boats. If you succeed, I succeed. I cannot tell you how thankful and grateful I am to Pat McAfee, to Shannon Sharpe, to Ryan Clark. The list goes on and on. Individuals who had the courage to go out there on their own and create a platform which ultimately evolved into a business that they could then monetize because you have linear networks and others willing to come on board and pay them for their content, thereby enabling them to get paid while being independent contractors and business owners without necessarily being employees. That is not something to hate on. That is something to show gratitude for. That's why I'm thankful to the Pat McAfees of the world. That's why I'm thankful and happy when I see the ratings or the numbers for Club Shay Shay or the Nightcap or Joe Rogan getting a $250 million deal or Bill Simmons before him on Spotify or Dan Le Batard with Meadowlark Media, or All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson signing on with Dan Le Batard and John Skipper and their team. The list goes on and on and on. Pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. The business is evolving. And individuals who were employees, who had nothing to rely upon other than their on-air talent, have transformed and transitioned into being actual businessmen. That is not something to hate. Whether it's any of the names that I mentioned, the McAfees, the Le Batards, the Shannon Sharps, the Ryan Clarks, the list goes on and on. No, that's something to revere. Joe Rogan is somebody I admire. Bill Simmons is somebody I admire. Pat McAfee and Shannon Sharp and Ryan Clark. You know what courage it takes for them to go out on their own and to create platforms? You know what courage it takes for a Brandon Marshall with I Am Athlete to strive to create his own brand and to establish his own entity? You have any idea what level of gravitas that takes, the risk that comes with it, the willingness to bet on yourself?
So yeah, that was Stephen A. Smith's reaction, and while he did squash rumors of a beef, that doesn't mean it didn't happen and that the reports were unfounded. It's not like you can go on air and say there was a beef between him and Pat, because how would that look? That would just blow up more stories in the mainstream media, and ESPN wouldn't be too happy. Honestly, in my opinion, I kind of saw something like this happening. These guys are on-air talents that have massive egos, and for a guy like Stephen A. Smith who has a contract at ESPN coming up in a year's time, they all want to be the top dog. Smith has made it no secret he is the face of the company and wants to be the highest paid personality, but I think he sees the writing on the wall that guys like Shannon Sharpe and Pat McAfee might have actually surpassed him at the company in terms of clout. These two attract way more eyeballs at the end of the day, and that's all ESPN cares about. Anyways, what do you think about this situation? Do you all think that Stephen A is still the top dog at ESPN?